What's good, everybody? What's up, man? It's your boy Steven Qualls II, aka Mr. Qualified. You feel me? And we're back with another episode of Qualified TV. Y'all, I know I say this every week. I know I do. I know I say I'm really excited to have this guest every week. But y'all don't understand. This my college mama, y'all. Everybody know when you first get to campus, you upperclassmen that become like your mama on campus that understand you a little bit more at the time than your actual mama. You feel me? So that's who this woman is. I'll allow her to introduce herself, and then we'll get the interview started.
Oh, that was so sweet, like instant blast of nostalgia. But for those who do not know, I am Brianna Arps, and I am the founder and CEO of Moodeaux, which is a clean luxury fragrance label that designs fragrances, perfumes, scents to help people flaunt how they feel. Like that's us in a nutshell. But yeah, we go way back. Like what is the saying? Way back, like flats. What is it? I'm not gonna butcher
Way
it.
back,
But
flats on the Cadillac.
yeah,
Yeah, we go back.
we go
Yeah,
back.
we do.
Yes. I'm
We
so
do.
excited.
I am as well. I'm extremely excited. Let's take it all the way back. So I remember you saying that being in perfume and being in this industry, if you will, was not necessarily always what you thought you were going to do. I don't even know if you always thought you would
Right.
even be creating a product or selling a product for that matter. So what did you initially want to do when you were younger?
Yeah, like man, that's a loaded question. But like to hit on our time at Mizzou, I was studying journalism. I was a student in the J school, and that's what I have my degree in. It's magazine management and publishing, which now I think of magazines and they're like all but obsolete. But yeah, I'm a writer by trade. So, when I graduated college, I like immediately started in the workforce uh up in New York City. So I had an editorial career that spanned, some years up there, and I worked at a lot of cool publications, Us Weekly, Business Insider, Refinery 29, blah blah blah. And that's what I thought my life is going to be. Like I thought I was going to yeah, I'm going to graduate, I'm going to go to New York, I'm going to be this big time editor one day, and then I'm going to live lavishly, and that's it. Like I didn't really have any plans outside of that, but life has a funny way of course correcting you even when you think that you're already on a good path. And I experienced a layoff, and unlike anything that Mizzou could teach me, Mizzou never taught me how to fail. They don't teach you what to do when you experience a loss of income. They just teach you how to get that job. So I thought I was really, really well prepared with the education that I had as a journalist, but I was not as prepared and equipped to navigate life as a young woman in a new city as my big girl job. I didn't know how to do that. So shit hit the fan very quickly after that layoff, and I knew I needed to do something. I knew I had other passions inside of me, and it was had a lot of self-exploration at that time. And I decided, I have some experience in beauty, obviously, and let's just try something else.
No, I feel that, and I think that that's a huge thing that you touch on. That I think a lot of people, in their own way, and it can look so different. I think that's what's so scary about it. But I think, yeah, a lot of times college in general is a time where you're not like you fail so much in college that, in a way, you look at college as like the worst. Like it can never
Yeah,
get
yeah,
as bad as the struggle in college. When in
yeah.
actuality, it definitely can. It can
Yes.
be just as bad, if not worse, once you get into the real world and you
Yes.
have additional responsibilities. I won't say they're more. I mean, they are, but I won't try to make it seem like I won't try to invalidate what college stresses and those
Right,
responsibilities can be. But when
right.
you're in the real world, I just know the biggest thing for me is like, yeah, when I was in college, I had bills, but like now I got bills.
Listen, I got bills, and I'm like, y'all don't let up. Like every other day, I'm paying for something, whether it's in my personal life and now as a business owner, I'm like, y'all are taking everything from me. And like, yeah, like I think, I had peers in college, friends in college who definitely worked because they had to. And like, I was a little bit sheltered in that. My grandparents gave me an allowance. I still ended up working my junior senior year at Sephora, but like I had a little bit more of a cushion, so I wasn't experiencing some of the stressors that my peers were. I knew the struggle was real. My struggle was like school. Like, as you become an upperclassman, shit's not sweet. Shit's not sweet. Like real, like it gets tough really fast. And so my family really wanted me to focus on that. And so yeah, when I did enter the real world and had to deal with some of the things that like my peers back then were, it was a culture shock for me, especially because I had a lot of, I was naive in a lot of ways. Growing up, I still, deal with things as I'm almost 30 now, which is kind of wild to say, but yeah, life hit me hard.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of people hard. I don't want to forget this as we move forward, but I did want to get some of your takeaways from working in the magazine industry. As you said, magazines. I mean, outside of maybe your top ones and your staple ones,
Yeah,
we are
yeah.
we are seeing a lot of magazines nowadays. Obviously, with how much things have just went digital and that
Correct.
whole transformation of information, if you will. But what are
Mhm.
your takeaways from that industry, at least in regards to maybe what it taught you or what it kind of allowed you to learn during that time of your life?
Yeah, it was a very fast-paced world. Like, I think the biggest takeaway I have from working in media was my ability to hone in on my storytelling skills. So I'm a really big proponent of transferable skills. I think that you don't have to necessarily have a certain degree background in something for you to excel in something else, right? And the at the crux of every great marketer, every great business person, every great publicist, whatever, like, is the ability to tell a good story. And so my experience in editorial allowed me to flex my voice literally in online and print, etc., and to be able to communicate information to people in a way that was relevant, engaging, relatable, um, all of those things, and which helped me today as a business owner who copyrights and whatever the case may be. I think that would be my biggest takeaway. And in a roundabout way, when I think about like my journey, I don't know if I would have went to school at Mizzou to be a journalist, particularly. I think, and I was just having a conversation with somebody the other day about like how when you're in school, like in high school, right? And you're meeting with your counselor and they're like talking about next steps. Like they ask you like, well, what do you like, right? And I know, and I remember talking with my counselor, and I would say like, I just like to write and tell stories. And they immediately funneled me into this path to become a journalist. They didn't open my brain to think like, oh, she loves to tell stories. She's a good storyteller. Oh, maybe she would be good at marketing. Or, oh, she's really good at, like, she loves beauty, has a passion for beauty. Like, maybe we should funnel her interest into chemistry. Maybe she can be a cosmetic chemist. Like, that's not how the system that my high school implemented, like, that's not how it worked. And so when I think about like where I'm at now, and all of the things that I've done in my journey, I just tie it back to the fact that I was I was obtaining all of the knowledge and the skills that I needed in a particular order, to where now that what I'm doing, it flows. It flows so much better. But yeah, my time in editorial was really like my time to hone in on how to tell a good story that people want to fuck with, pretty much.
For sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. And you touched on a really great point, I think. And I mean, that's a completely different conversation when we start talking about the educational system and the school system
Yes.
specifically
For us,
for
the
us in our Black
pipeline.
community. Yeah, the pipeline is that's a completely different conversation that touches on so many different things. But I wonder, I mean, we could go on and on about maybe why that is, but I think it is extremely detrimental not to open kids' minds up to just what could be possible based
Yeah.
on their interest. It's so easy to say,
Yes.
"Oh, you like to write? That's journalism." When it's like, in
Right.
reality, writing is involved in everything. you
Everything.
have to write everything. Like writing a contract is not journalism, but having the skill
Exactly.
of writing comes in handy, obviously, when you're creating a contract and knowing all the other information you
Yes.
know. So I think that's really, really huge. And I want to use that to kind of segue and transition. So when you made the decision that, hey, we're gonna try something different, that part of my life in terms of working in marketing, working in media, that is done as far as I see it at this point in
Right.
time. I want to try something new. What kind of went into, okay, let me start this, or let me start here. Let me figure out if this is the idea I want to build on. And then ultimately, how did that develop into when you know, like, okay, this is the name, this is what I want the
Yeah.
brand to be, this is what I'm pushing out.
Yeah. It was, I anyone who has experienced a loss of income, whether that's uh voluntary or involuntary or whatever, whether you're fired, laid off, whatever the case may be, like anyone who's gone through that knows how hard that can hit you. Um, and it really, really hit me hard because in my eyes, I thought I rose to the proverbial ranks faster than my peers. And I was an editor and I was in New York City and I was making money. I was doing things. I felt like I was, had reached a pinnacle. And so when it all literally came crashing down, I was depressed. I fell into a hole where a lot of times I didn't want to get up. I didn't want to try. I didn't want to apply to jobs. I didn't want to do that. But, you get to a point where you have to pick yourself up. I've had a lot of internal pep talks. And one of the things in particular that made that easier for me was my beauty routines. A lot of ladies or individuals in particular might be able to relate to it. Like, the fact that you just get up and you take a shower and you're putting on your makeup or you put on that lipstick or you spray that spritz of perfume, like it does something to you. Like you start to remember who you are again, and you start to remember those routines and whatever. So that was like what, October 2018 when I was laid off, and I spent the rest of that year and the top half of the next really just remembering who the fuck I was. And it was through perfume in particular that I realized that there's something there. Like a lot of people don't, they may know it, but they don't acknowledge that our sense of smell is our strongest sense. Like people who lose their eyesight, they rely on their nose and their like their sense of, their sensories, the olfaction, right? They rely on that when they lose something, or in general, though, it is our strongest sense. And it has an innate scientific ability to trigger good thoughts. Like, when you're like walking on the street and you catch a whiff of something, like it immediately might trigger a very specific memory in your mind that makes you happy, or you smell your grandma's cooking, or you smell something that smells like your grandma's cooking and you're like, dang, I remember when I was a little youngin' and we were running around. Like it just triggers very specific emotions, memories, and feelings. And, that was the thing that kind of really helped to pull me out of my funk, was smelling things that just made me feel like that girl. And so, doing a lot of research, I came to understand that back then in particular, there was just a void of Black mainstream fragrance labels. Like you couldn't go to Sephora, you couldn't go to Neiman's, you couldn't go to Saks, you couldn't even go to Macy's and find a brand that was offering a product that you knew was Black owned, or that you knew that a Black woman, Black man, Black individual created. Like that was not a thing. Like we were not mainstream visible in that way. And that kind of pissed me off. It really bothered me because Black folks in general, we are innovators by trade, like by nature. Like that's just in our DNA. And we've always had to adapt and adjust. We've always had to do that. And so, with there not being enough of us, I decided, well, fuck it. Like, well, I'm just gonna try. I'm just gonna try. And it took a lot of the learning curve was very steep. Like fragrance is chemistry, perfumery is chemistry. I essentially went back to school per se. I learned a lot, read a lot, connected with a lot of like dope people who were able to lend their expertise or just give me some knowledge here and there. And from 2018 till 2021, when we officially launched, that's what I was doing, like researching, marketing, figuring out the design, figuring out like what our point of view is going to be. Like I really honed in really, really, really deep on the strategy so that when we did launch, I felt like what we were coming out with was strong, and that it could tell a cohesive story. So yeah, I mean that the journey was wild, really.
Yeah, no, 3 years. I don't even think I realized that it was 3 years. I mean, I don't think I would have, or I would have had that context. But I think that's a big thing and an important thing to note because, I mean, even with the qualified brand, I think when you have an idea and when you know what you want that idea to look like, even before you necessarily care about what the audience is going to say, when
Right.
you have the idea of what you want it to look like, it's really difficult to kind of wait for it to form. And
Mm.
I feel like it's a huge practice in patience, But like you said, you went
Discipline.
back, yeah, and you had to. I mean, the idea that you have to read and study and learn something, not necessarily all over, but maybe learn something new or learn something in a different way, so you can bring that vision to life. I think is extremely important. What would you say was the first big lesson in the midst of that journey that kind of lets you know, like, yeah, this curve is pretty steep. This curve is
Yeah,
pretty
like recognizing that it's chemistry. So
okay.
a lot of Black owned brands, especially in the beauty sector, a lot of us start in our kitchen, just
Mm,
picking up raw materials and playing around with them. And, I went to my first foray was I remember going to Whole Foods and just buying a whole bunch of like essential oils and just anything that I could find around me. I just bought everything and I started just mixing things and playing around with things and seeing what natively and naturally just smelled good to me. And in my research, I'm like, well, no, like there's so many more compounds to a fragrance besides essential oils. Like there's other elements and like those elements, you have to be careful because they may not go with the others. And then also, we're not just fragrance, we have an element of skincare in our product and our hero product. So, learning how, okay, a fragrance product, what's involved with making sure that the oils that we use are soluble, that they mesh well together. Like it was a lot of hands-on, like playing around. But I think the biggest learning curve was like the chemistry, the chemical aspect of it. And once I realized like, I have a little bit of something that I know I'm working with, right? I had a smell, a concept that I really wanted to execute, and I played around enough to know that it was hard. I brought on people who are experts. I have a lab partner who I've been working with for now years. And once I, provided them with the concept, that I had validated myself, they were able to take it to the next level. We worked on it for a really long time, and it was iteration after iteration after iteration. I think it was like 9 times for us to go back and forth for it to be perfect. So, that would, I think, would be my biggest lesson was the chemistry aspect, but then also bringing a product to market. It needs to be safe. It needs to be safe. It needs to be compliant with industry standards. Like, and they're the ones who educated me even more so about that. And, we're able to ensure that what we were creating was solid. Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, I've never been a science person. I would have burnt something. I would have
Listen,
burnt something. Look,
neither have I.
someone would have went wrong. Someone would have went wrong. Okay, I would
A lot of shit went wrong behind the scenes. A lot of things fell through.
I feel that, but no, I'm pretty sure it had to feel amazing. Like when you got to that point after that ninth time, after that 10th time, like understand, like, yo, I tried 9 different things and finally got the
Yes.
one that I was looking for. Could only imagine how that felt. So with the journey into the launch, what did it feel like to launch?
Mm.
And what exactly was the process of preparing to launch? When did it transition from figuring this out, getting everything together to, okay, I'm preparing to launch, the product officially?
Yeah, it still was a journey. Like I wouldn't even say that there was particular like dates or timestamps on when we reached certain processes. Like I think or steps in the process. I think I did this thing very unconventional. Like now that I've done it and like I know founders and beauty owners, business owners and beauty who do it the right correct way, my shit was all over the place. Okay, I was doing step 9 first, step 1 all the way at the end. Like I was all over the place. But one of the things that really helped me pull it together was the death of my grandfather. So we were initially supposed to launch in 2020. I had everything design wise. We had a rebrand that we had did because of some other drama. Like we had all of our ducks in order as far as what would be needed to be public facing. Like the website was done and whatever. We were supposed to launch in 2020 and COVID happened and like that really shook the world. It really shook my world. And I just knew like there's no way I'm gonna be able to do this right now while I don't know what's going on. And then also I wasn't really well. Like I kept busy for nearly 2.5 years working on this. But when it got down to it, I was really nervous and scared. And I was just like, I don't feel like it's the right time. So, we waited, but my grandfather ended up passing the following year. So July 15th, 2021. And he's the first person that I've lost that's really, really close to me. Like, I think we all know that there's life and death and you're born and you die. Like, we all know that. But when it happens and it's around you and you really understand how short life is, like I had just seen him a week earlier. And
Mm.
then the following week he died. Like, huh? Like I didn't understand, but I knew that like, listen, Brianna, you've been working on this thing for almost 3 years at this point. It's time to go. Like it's time to just go. So I picked October 1st and I just said, fuck it, whatever's not done won't be done. Like whatever it is, whatever's done, whatever status and state we're at, forget it. October 1st is when we launch. So we're coming up on a year officially. So I'm excited.
Yeah, no, that is a crazy story. It's crazy how death can be powerful in
Yeah.
so many ways like that. So yes, like obviously sorry for that, but happy that it gave the push that you needed to
Yeah.
officially launch. So after the launch, what was the feeling, when you launched in the initial reception? How did you feel? How long did the scared and anxious emotion kind of stay after the launch, after it was okay, it's here now?
Well, it's still there. It has not gone away. Like every day there was something that gets me just as anxious. But I will say it was wild. It was wild because unlike like having a grand opening in a store where you cut the ribbon and whatever, hopefully God willing will also do that too. But online it was just like, you just push this button and then like boom. And so the day that we announced that we were launching like maybe a week or so, like we had a date and so there were people waiting. So when I did press go on everything, uh immediately orders poured in because I was late because I told people I think 3 o'clock and I didn't launch till like 3:03. So like when I did, like there was already orders that came through and I was like, whoa, like this is wild. People like really are fucking with this, like because they also, when I say they, I mean people who I know personally, but also people who I know via social media. Like I've had an army of people around me who've known that this is coming. Like I would
Mm.
share the process online. I would talk about it all the time. So when it became, time to launch, I feel as though they felt just as invested as me. Like they were just as excited as me because at that time, like a lot of folks didn't know anyone in fragrance who were, Black people in fragrance. So when we launched, we made thousands. I won't tell you the exact figure, but we made thousands and thousands of dollars that day one.
It's
And I
crazy.
was like, oh shit. We have some, and we launched on pre-order too. So they still had
Mm.
to wait. They still had to wait like 3 months because I needed to make sure that we had an accurate count of everything. I needed to make sure that we were
Right.
set. So they still had to wait like 3 or so months because I think we started shipping in December, around December time. So it was just wild and surreal. And I remember that my boyfriend took me out to dinner that day, or we went and picked it up because COVID was still kind of crazy. And I'm in Atlanta down right here. I'm in Atlanta. So Atlanta was still wilding for real, for real. So we went and got dinner, and he just was like, I need you to remember this day because you're never going to have a day like this where this is the first time you press go on something that you've been working on for so long. And I remember just sitting in the car and like reflecting on it. And it was a really big weight off of my shoulder. I was able to finally say that I did it. It was no more just words or like captions on Instagram. It was an actual living, breathing thing. And it felt great to finally do something for myself because I've worked for a lot of people. I've worked for companies, but I worked for a lot of entrepreneurs, very, very, very successful entrepreneurs. And it was nice that I could finally join the ranks of that group.
What was, and I'm glad you brought that up actually, because what is that transition like? I want to be specific here. What is that transition like mentally and emotionally,
Mm,
going from the understanding of I'm working for somebody else, I'm literally on somebody else's
right.
time, my responsibilities are set by somebody else too. I set all of that for myself. And while that is a certain freedom, I would also imagine that to a degree, and I'm not an entrepreneur on the level that you are, obviously, but to a degree, there is a deeper discipline that's needed in
Oh
that
yeah.
regard. So
Yeah.
so speak to what that transition mentally and emotionally felt like for you.
Yeah, that's a really good question. It was, it was wild. I think I've always been someone who wanted to do something. Like I'm a very opinionated, strong-willed person. And so to make the leap was good for me because I feel as though I was able to set what you were saying before, like set my own terms and boundaries and responsibilities. Like that felt empowering to me. Very, very much empowering, but also at the same time, very, very scary because um I have everything that happens with Moodeaux and everything that does not happen for Moodeaux is my fault. And I want
Right.
to focus on the latter. And I mentioned this to our mutual friend Lex all the time. Like when we were in college, I was like, when I put my name on something, it's gotta be legit. Like you will never see my name on anything that isn't legit. And there comes a heavy responsibility with being that type of person and that, your destiny is solely up to you. Like there's no more excuses. There's nothing else that you can blame for your lack of success. So for me, it was like, wow, like I'm empowered because I'm doing my own thing, but also, bitch, if you don't do what you say you're going to do, this is your fault. It's nobody else's fault but yours. And
Yeah.
that's a heavy hat that I wear every day. And it's also what keeps me going because everything that I say I want to do, I'm holding myself accountable for doing it. And it may take longer, it may come faster, but like at the end of the day, like it's on me. And I think over the past few months, I've channeled that nervous energy that comes with that responsibility into fuel to actually just get it done. But that's a really good question. That was a really good question.
Yeah. You spoke about it being legit, and I want you to kind of like dive into what legit means to you, because I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs will make that statement, and obviously rightfully so. But I think the idea of legitimacy in terms of you could have a product, or you could have something that you're ready to sell that is legitimate in the fact that it's solid, but
Right.
maybe you expect or require more of yourself. Or maybe it could also be that you're a perfectionist and you're literally going to be the hardest critique of yourself. So you're going to
Yeah.
always find something that can be better. So for you, when you say legit, in your mind, what does that mean? What is legitimacy as it comes to you and as it comes to Moodeaux?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's actually the latter. When I say legit, like there's a lot of, and no shade to anyone, because there's a business model and business strategy for anyone and everyone. And obviously, this one that I'm about to reference works because we see it everywhere. We've seen it. But like, I didn't want to take the white label route. I didn't want to, and white labeling, white is pretty much, for those who don't know, is, you know, someone makes a product, it's a bulk product, like whatever, it's a standard manufactured product, and then you just put your name on it. Like, I didn't want to do that. Like, I really wanted to understand the chemistry behind perfumery. I really wanted to understand the chemistry and the science behind skincare. I really didn't want to do the wholesale route. Like, I remember, funny story. I remember I told my mom on a whim, like, yeah, mom, I'm gonna have a perfume company. And like, she didn't mean it negatively, but she's like, yeah, like just Alibaba. And like, she just mentioned, and I'm like, no, no, that will not be the way in which I do this thing. I'm gonna do it right, and I'm gonna do it in a legitimate fashion to where I know that every component, every aspect is original and was intentional and is well thought through, and the strategy behind everything that we're doing will yield the type of success that I know I need and I know I can have. So it took a really long time because I made sure that every element was correct. And like, maybe so I am a perfectionist, yes, but I wanted to make sure that the experience that people have when they support us with their money by purchasing something from Moodeaux, that the expectations that they have are in alignment with what they receive. And you cannot say luxury without giving a luxury experience, like, or luxury product or whatnot. You know, you have to make sure all that shit's in alignment. And so that's what I mean by legit.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I feel like that is a standard that anybody who is releasing something should hold themselves to, because
Yeah.
ultimately, like you said, all that pressure falls on you. And I really am big on, like, when your name is on something, I think that can be applied in general. You know,
Yeah.
like whenever your name is on something or attached to something, uh, you don't want it to be associated with, I don't even know if this is a word, but half asses. You know,
Yeah, like, because
like, you just don't
what
want it
is
to be
the
associated with that.
point? What is the
Right.
point? Like, if you're gonna, I've spent like years of my life at this point, and countless, like, I think at the time that we had launched, or shortly thereafter, I think I put an estimate of like $35,000 I had put into this stuff. And mind you, a lot of that money came from my savings from being, you know, unemployed, my little nest egg I had, right? Like, a lot of that money came from that. And like, I don't even know how much I've spent to date. I haven't I haven't looked at the books, but like, it's money, like real deal money, like people's salaries. I've invested whole salaries into this situation. And it's like, why would I ever half-ass that? Am I
Yeah.
gonna get half-ass of my money's worth back if I even, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, no, like,
Yeah.
I can't cheat myself. It's like with it's with any kind of thing. Like, you can relate this to sports. Like when your coach is like having a pep talk with you and they're like, bruh, especially when it comes to track and field, because I ran track and field for years. And it's like, you're only cheating yourself on that track. Like, you want to give half-ass, you're not cheating me, you're cheating yourself. And so it's totally applicable, business, sports, relationships, whatever the case may be. And like, that's, if no one takes anything away from any of this that we're talking about, I hope that they take that and apply it to whatever medium or discipline they have, because, you know, you can't win when you're not even giving it your all.
That's a bar. That's a
I'm just
bar right
saying,
there.
how you gonna win? How you gonna win?
Yeah, like truly win. And I think that's big, because you can win by accomplishing something, like by accomplishing
Yeah,
something, whether it be like in sport, whether you like actually win based on a score, or whether it's some
right.
other medium where you win by reaching a certain accomplishment, or, you know, doing a certain feat. But true winning in terms of like, no, like I gave my all. Like,
Yeah,
I was supposed to win because of what I know I put into. Like, there was no other
yeah.
option based on how I operated. That type of win, like, that's different. In my opinion, that's a different type of
That
win. I feel like that's the
is.
win that you're talking about.
That's the one I want. Yeah. And like, oh, I'm so glad that you made that distinction, because I wouldn't feel right on the inside. And this is just how I'm hardwired. I wouldn't feel right on the inside if Moodeaux had made it to where it's made it today, if I would have given half effort. I would,
Mm.
like, I would still feel And I think that's what still keeps me going today is like, I would feel like, nah, like I have so much more in me. I have so much more to give. Like, I'm not satisfied. And like, that's what makes the win so much sweeter, like today. And don't get me wrong, like, we're still very much so very early in our journey. We are babies. Okay. But I wouldn't feel as proud as I am today if I would have cut any kind of corner.
Mm,
You know, I don't even from outside perception, forget that. Like I know inside I wouldn't feel worth I wouldn't feel like I've earned it. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what makes like LeBron and like Steph and Serena and Tiger. I feel like that's what makes that separates them from any other winner. You know what I'm saying?
absolutely.
Serena has lost, Tiger has lost, you know, LeBron has lost, but like that's what makes their wins a little bit sweeter. I think that kind of mentality, the Mamba mentality, Kobe, rest in peace. Like that's the kind of shit that I'm talking about that separates those who are really out here to prove something and those who, you know, don't have that quite same mentality, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I completely agree. Um, Proudest moment to date, of the brand or of yourself in relation to the brand.
I have so every day I'm so proud every day, but I will say I think the day that we launched in retail, I think um is really something that I'll look back on, you know, constantly because not only did we launch on our birthday, I chose that date because I'm extra and I gave it, you know, that's the best gift I could have given myself this past year. Um, but we by traditional standards, we're not supposed to be there. You know, like we're a young Black startup. We're not supposed to be the first Black-owned fragrance label sold anywhere. Like we're like
Right.
just we're not supposed to be there. Like with all of the stuff, all of the hindrances, all of the blocks and barricades that exist today, like we're not supposed to be. Like when it comes to Black brands versus white brands, we know the lack of resources, the lack of funding, the disparity between the two. Let me not even say lack because we all know everybody want to give us money now because Black people are cool now, whatever. But the disparity between the two groups, that's something that I always, you know, think about. And so with that in mind, like I'm not supposed to be doing what I'm doing. And the fact that like we're able to reach milestones such as being in a physical retail space, like that's validation. That's motivation and that's, you know, it helps me to keep my eye on the prize. Like we have just so much further to go, but like that moment in particular means a lot to me because I know that statistically speaking, I wasn't supposed to be doing that. So it feels good. And they're great partners. Our retailer is Credo Beauty, which is the largest clean beauty retailer on the planet. There's about 10 locations nationwide in major cities, but they're available online. But their assortment is very intentional in that they curate the best of the best in beauty, in clean beauty. They have very strict standards and regulatory practices in place that and help to ensure that the products that they carry and they vouch for are legit. Another, you know, I guess legit is our word for today, but so to be recognized by them and supported by them, like that means a lot.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's, yeah, stuff I can imagine. There's so many things to be proud of. Like when you literally kind of started something from scratch, like you said, every day, you know, something to be proud of. But I think that it is important to acknowledge milestones that one, not everybody, you know, in your field or just everybody around you may be able to experience. And two, like you said, looking at the fact that it's not necessarily a space that you know we're expected to be in, you know, when you
Right.
talk about like, you know, Black people in that industry. So completely get that. And I'm proud of you as
Thank you.
well. Yes. What else? So 5 years. 5 years from now, what is the plan or what do you already have in sight or envisioned um for the brand in 5 years?
So, um, every everything that we're doing, the end goal is to be the go-to fragrance destination for millennials, Gen Zers, and whatever else they're going to call the generation underneath Gen Z. I don't know. Right? We want to be that new age destination. And when I say destination, like that's online, offline, that's, you know, wherever our audience is, we want to be there, and we want to be top of mind when they think of products that they want to purchase to make them feel like their best. And it's very vague, and it's vague on purpose because, you know, I think when you're able to expand your mind in that realm and in that regard, you're not limiting your capabilities here. You know, Moodeaux wants to be in fragrance. We want to be in home fragrance. We want to be in body care. We want to be in other types of luxury goods. Like, we want to be all of that because our motto, flaunt how you feel, is all encompassing. Like, you can flaunt how you feel with fragrance. You can flaunt how you feel with your wardrobe. You can flaunt how you feel with whatever, right? So that's where I see us in 5 or so years. I see us having our own storefront, like our own fragrance lab, and our own experiential space where people can come and experience our world. And I see a lot of things for the brand, but ultimately, you know, aside from Moodeaux, I also own Black and Fragrance, which we're turning into its own separate entity. But really, like, we're just trying to support people who are like me, who are trying to do some things, right? Like, we want to provide more grant funding because we've provided 3 thus far. We want to build an infrastructure that is conducive to long-term growth for the industry. We want to invite other retailers and media partners to partake in this revolution that is Black people innovating a space that we weren't never involved to be a part of. So that's where Moodeaux is going, but that's where Black and Fragrance is going. And who knows? Like, I think I'm now an entrepreneur by trade. Like 20 years from now, I might have another business. But like right now, my focus is on building Moodeaux to be that go-to destination.
Love that. Love that. And I think I love that. I love anything that is all encompassing because I'm a huge fan of understanding that there's no reason why you can't have, why you can't have your hands, in multiple
Yeah.
baskets.
As
And
long as it makes sense. Yeah.
yeah,
As long as it makes sense.
yeah, yeah. And if you can find something where the multiple baskets that you have some type of intertwining or connectedness,
Yeah.
flex, flaunt, flex, whatever you want to do. Like,
Yes. We've seen white people do it all the time. That's how they
all the time.
white people and I mention white people in particular because in America, white people are the standard. Like in America, in the grand scheme of things. And a lot of great successful brands were founded by white folks. Mm-hmm. So when I'm looking at like Apple and I'm looking at Amazon, I'm looking at Tesla, I'm looking at all of these brands and businesses. They grew outside of their original one idea, and like that's how they've been able to amass not only the brand recognition that they have, but like amass their wealth. And so, I definitely can see whatever I get involved in, adopting the same philosophies and mindsets that Steve had and that, Mark has and that, Elon has, etc. So I'm excited. I keep excited and
legit.
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 Those are my buzzwords.
Yeah, we got a lot of buzzwords in this one. This wasn't going to be the last question, but because you brought up the white people, I do think this is something that would be nice to end on, especially within your industry and just I think not entertainment, more so the marketing industry or the industry of like selling products. What is your take actually on the idea of nepotism? And this is the conversation that I haven't had super directly, but it's been something that's come up consistently over the years. Whereas when you speak about white people, it's like it's not uncommon for things to kind of just be passed to them or for them to be able to have an opportunity because of who they know, because of a family name, because of connections they have. But for whatever odd reason, and I say that not wanting to disregard or not acknowledge that we value hard work, you know, in the
Yeah,
Black
yeah,
community.
yeah.
But I think sometimes we do take it too far to where we say it's who you know and not what you know. But sometimes it's very difficult for that who you know to actually kind of help things come to fruition for you,
Yeah.
because I feel like somebody who's made it would much rather say, no, you need to struggle and go through what I
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
get. And in essence, I don't think it has to be looked at as, oh, I want to watch somebody else struggle. But
Yeah. Yeah.
if I can put you at a place where, yeah, you still obviously have to work to get to a
Right.
certain place and work to maintain, but you don't
Right.
have to go through some of the things that I wish I didn't have to go through to get to where I got. I feel
Mhm.
like that would really even push our community even further. We wouldn't have to have everybody starting,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
from the. What are your thoughts on that? As whether you've seen it or whether you got, if you had any type of experience with it specifically in your industry, but also if you want to relate anything generally as well.
Yeah. Like you are 1,000% correct. Like our counterparts, as in white folks, they're masters of sharing the resources. Like regardless, like with less stipulations. Like you don't have to be the most talented, you don't have to be the most qualified, you don't have to be like those aren't those aren't necessarily qualifications for them to want to put each other on. And it's obviously worked. Like look at what's around us in the companies and the industries in which we're all partake in, and like all of those are driven mainly by white folks. And for some reason, you know, we are slower to adopt the same philosophy. Um, and I think the reasons are not, it's not just necessarily one reason. I think they're very complex and very intertwined. And a lot of it is subconscious, really, by how we're treated by white folks. You know what I'm saying? Like when historically one of us or a few of us have been given the opportunity by a white person or by our counterparts, that way of thinking has trickled down. Oh, there can only be one or a handful. And so I think it first comes with acknowledgement that like, hey, y'all, we got some work to do. Like that's the biggest thing. And then number two, it's a matter of like, let's sit back and think about what can we earn from not helping somebody? Like what is the like what benefit is it from not helping one another? Okay. And then what are the benefits of helping each other? And like when you really map it out like that, it's clear as day that like we can go so much further when we go together. And it sounds so cliche, and I'm not the first person to say that. I won't be the last, but it's 1,000% true. And so people reach out to me all the time. People reach out to me all the time. And oftentimes I don't know why, because in my mind, I'm like, hell, I don't know. Like I'm still figuring shit out. I'm still figuring it out. Like I may have gotten, X far, but like shit. In my mind, I still have so much further to go. But when they do reach out to me, I don't discredit that, because obviously they see something. They see something, and I don't want to discredit it, but I always share what I know. I may not give you the Moodeaux sauce, but I'll share my resources with you. I'll help you find grants. I'll review a pitch deck or whatever. Like I always try to lend myself to be of service to other people in that way, because I know how hard it is when you're doing the shit alone. And I know how hard it is when you're trying to trailblaze or innovate an industry where it's traditionally been gatekept. Like fragrance. Fragrance is a very Eurocentric, the model of selling, designing fragrances, whatever, is very Eurocentric. And that a lot of it comes from the major fashion houses and trickles down or whatever, right? And like that's a very gatekept industry in and of its own fashion. So I know that if I'm sharing information with someone else, they're going to take my information, build on it, and then maybe pass it back to me from what I don't know. Like it's an ecosystem. Like there's no way that I could have done anything without anyone that I've ever worked for, or
Right.
anyone that had ever been willing to take a meeting from me. So I'm a fan of nixing the whole crabs in the barrel mentality. I think we all can honestly truly win. I don't think there's many of us. I don't think there's too many ideas. I think we all can find our lane in our space. I think it just gets tricky a lot of times when people perceive success and they mirror it exactly. And that's what I'm trying to combat now. I think the groups of people I kick it with and I reside with, whatever, like we all know that we can do it all together. Like it's better to do it together. But I think that there's a phenomenon that often occurs where people want to take the easier route by just copying. And like I'm also trying to like educate people on like, no, like that's not the way either, you know, like so I'm in alignment and agreement with the whole let's hold hands and figure this shit out together. I think we still have so much further to go as far as like my people in my circle, Black people in general. But I know we can get there. Like I have no doubt that we can get there because it's happened before. Like Harlem in the what is it, 1920s? Like the was it 1920s? The Renaissance. Like
I think was it the 20s? I don't know. I have to do my
whenever the Harlem Renaissance kicked off, like in Black Wall Street, like Black Wall Street was unfortunately burned to the ground, but like we saw how it could happen for us. Like we saw what could happen when creative communities and just business leaders and thought leaders can get together and do some shit. We've seen it. It's just like, okay, how do we break down all of the systemic barriers that are in our way, preventing us from getting back to that? So, yeah, I don't know, but we can do it. We can do it.
We can definitely do it. No, I agree with that for sure. Okay, also, quick side note before we get into this last question. Is this hoodie on the site?
It's not. No. So fun fact, my boyfriend makes me he just makes me merch all the time. Like I have so much Moodeaux shit. He just likes to make it for me. So I, feel empowered to keep going. But I swear to you, people ask me about merch all the time. And we're gonna dip our toe, wearable merch, that is. We're gonna dip our toe in it very soon because an idea came to me and I think it'll be good. So just wait.
Hoodie season around the corner. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
So,
it's actually a set. You can't see, but I'm wearing the matching bottoms and it has Moodeaux on it too. You can't see, but merch is coming. Wearable merch is coming. I promise.
I don't know. I feel like there might be others out there like me that feel this way, but I'm gonna be on your head about this merch. I'm gonna be on your head about it.
Yes, people text me all the time. Yes, it's coming, y'all. I promise.
Okay, last but certainly not least.
Okay.
The final question I have to ask everybody.
Yes.
We've talked so much about your journey from working in media to becoming an entrepreneur, everything that went into your actual launch and things that you're doing with the brand currently, things that you want to do with the brand. All that being said, what makes you, Brianna Arps, but also Moodeaux as a company and brand, qualified?
Woo! I knew it was coming, and I thought I could prepare an answer. But hell, okay, I thought I could prepare. What makes me qualified? I would say the biggest thing that makes me qualified would be my passion for this work. Like my passion for storytelling, my passion for people, my passion for making change in industries that aren't as welcoming. Like I think I'm just downright passionate. And we all know that you might not have to be the best, but passion can take you a really, really long way. So I think my passion.
I love that. I think passion is huge in anything that you do, but especially as an entrepreneur. Y'all, I don't know about y'all. I know I've got hella gems that I'm gonna keep from this conversation. So I hope y'all take away some of the gems as well. Is there anything else you want to leave people with? Do you want to leave people with any news about Moodeaux, things that are forthcoming or things that they should be expecting, or just things about yourself, other projects that you have going on before we depart?
In order to keep up, you should follow us at Moodeaux Official. That's MOODEAUX Official. That's our main Instagram handle, as well as on Facebook. Same thing. On Twitter, we're at Moodeaux. And then obviously, just check out our website. It's moodeaux.com. Make sure that you subscribe for notifications and just keep in touch with us. I'm very active on our social channels as well. I comment back on a lot of things too, aside from the page. So keep in touch with us. Let's be friends.
Great. Y'all definitely going to be friends. for sure. So y'all should get on that. But no, it's been so great talking to you. Please, not please, but thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and talk with me and do this interview. I've been wanting to do this for a very long time, so this is
Yeah.
something that I can mark off of my list of things I've wanted to do since I've even started doing qualified TV. So yeah, once again, this has been an amazing episode. I give y'all gems. I give y'all great guests. I give y'all products to go buy. I don't know what else y'all want from me at this point. But until next week and until I bring another guest before you all, I'll catch y'all next time and y'all be easy. Peace.